There's a lot of weapons in TF2, and a lot of underrated weapons. A couple of the weapons that I personally think are underrated are the candy cane, family business, and thermal thruster. Whoa, what's that? Looks like a super entertaining fun watch. But if I were asked what I thought the most underrated weapon in TF2 is, I'd say the Dragon's Fury. If I were asked about 2 months ago. But recently the Dragon's Fury has been getting a lot more use, so that brings me to what I think TF2's new most underrated weapon is. The Winger. You don't really see this thing in-game a lot, and you never really see other YouTubers talk about it. So you know what? I freaking love the Winger, and I think that it's about darn time someone gave this thing the spotlight for a little while. Editor's note. Okay, so I started making this video a couple days ago, and this part of the video has aged terribly. I kid you not, a day after recording this, YouTuber El Maxo released a video calling the Winger the most underrated scout weapon. So credit where credit is due, I got beat to the punch. But I'm still gonna be releasing this because I'm halfway through editing it, and I don't want to throw all my gameplay in the trash. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about the Winger, the most underrated weapon in TF2. At the moment. Now to understand the Winger fully, we're gonna have to go back to the far-off year of 2011. On June 23rd, 2011, the Uber update dropped. And with it came a lot of mainstay changes for TF2. Meet the Medic dropped, TF2 became free to play, and they added 22 freaking weapons to the game. Imagine if we got that today. It would be insane. Please. Please, Val. Anyways, one of these weapons was the Winger. And the stats it had were pretty simple, just like a lot of the Uber update weapons. It had a 60% clip reduction penalty, which brings you from 12 bullets to 5, for the upside of 15% more damage. This version of the Winger was not good. The base damage of the Winger is 17, and the base damage of the pistol is 15. Sacrificing over half your clip for 2 extra damage per shot is just not a worthy sacrifice. Granted, at closer ranges, the damage of the Winger does get better, dealing 26 damage per shot compared to the pistol's 22. This version of the Winger tried to be a finishing tool, but due to the clip size penalty, it lacked the sustaining consistency to really be a reliable good weapon. The TF2 team recognized that the Winger was underpowered, and a little over 2 years later on July 10th, 2013, the Winger received the buff that made it the weapon it is today. The update gave you the ability to jump 25% higher while the Winger was deployed, and considering you have 2 jumps, that means that you actually jump 50% higher. The height that you get from jumping with the Winger out is monumental, and unlike most weapons that provide a mobility boost, there's no downside to pulling it out. The escape plan makes you take mini crits, the Gruen eviction notice drain your health, the power jack makes you take more damage, so does the Claymore. The list goes on and on. But with the Winger, there's no time when pulling it out for an escape is a bad idea. The Winger pairs particularly well with the Soda Popper for this sole reason. Combining a full height meter with the Winger is like basically getting to use no clipping casual. It's insane. And with no height bar, the Winger is great for making escapes. The higher jump makes your movement a lot less predictable, which lets you be more evasive and hard to hit, especially against classes like Sniper and Demo Man where precision prediction is a large factor in their aim. And keep in mind that unlike other weapons that grant mobility, the Winger is a gun. And guns shoot people. Okay, but seriously. Aside from being a great escape tool, the Winger also opens up every map for Scout. I'd like to use this clip as an example. Stop! Okay, let's rewind the clip and look at it with a keener eye. Now I know there's a Demo Man right above my spawn doors. Now without the Winger, I could run behind and get a flank, but this could take valuable time and the Demo Man could kill my team in the time it takes. So using the Winger, I jump from the spawn doors up to the Demo Man, completely catching them by surprise and taking them down. Then I use a very tasteful laugh taunt to seal the deal. And if you're wondering, yes, this jump is impossible without the winger. There are so many unique paths and routes you can access with the winger, and it makes your positioning much harder to predict and lets you get the jump on unsuspecting foes a lot easier. It's so ridiculously easy to flank with the winger, I'd almost recommend using it with the backscatter. But that weapon is still pretty trash. If this flanking playstyle does appeal to you though, I would highly recommend using it with the Force of Nature. These two weapons combined give you an even larger mobility boost. A tech I'm not sure you guys are aware of for the Force of Nature is that by running, jumping, and aiming downwards at a 45-degree angle, you get much more height than just simply aiming downwards. Combine this with a winger jump, and your vertical mobility is slightly less than that of a rocket jump, which is pretty insane for a non-explosive class. Here's a couple places I like to call gamer spots you can use with the winger.
Attention. 5 minutes left in the mission.
And that was just 2 maps.
Hey, can't you just use the Atomizer to get the added mobility without having to sacrifice your secondary slot?
Hey, you. Shut the hell up. Sorry. Where was I again? Whatever. Yeah, I can sort of agree with that statement, but the Atomizer has a deploy speed penalty, which keeps you from using it whenever you want. However, the winger's utility is on demand. This means you can rapidly switch between your scattergun and winger for a mobility boost whenever you want. The Atomizer you have to commit to get any use out of its bonus. That's not necessarily to say that the Atomizer is a bad weapon, but the winger's utility is not made completely obsolete by the Atomizer. In fact, the two weapons used together are even better for maximum mobility. Oh yeah, I've been hyping up the jump height for so long that I haven't even mentioned the damage bonus yet. Yeah, the former version of the winger was subpar because of the lack of firepower, but the current version of the winger is a much more reliable damage dealer thanks to the jump height. So how much damage does the winger even do? Well, the winger has 5 rounds in a clip, and each round does a maximum damage of 26. This means that the winger has a maximum potential damage of 130 per clip. Compared to the stock pistol though, the overall damage per clip for the winger pales in comparison to the pistol's 264 potential damage per clip, nearly double that of the winger's. This means that when using the winger, you're not going to want to use it to engage fights. When you've already damaged your enemy is where the winger's upsides start to shine. The winger is an excellent finisher tool. When you combine the burst damage with the scattergun with the high damage and mobility of the winger, pretty much every class doesn't stand a chance at close range. Especially at like point blank range where the winger's damage adds up much more quickly and you are much more evasive with your jumps. See, what the winger lacks in sustained reliable damage, it makes up for with shorter but high burst damage. I'm not gonna lie though, the clip penalty for this weapon can really suck at times. You have to make sure you make every shot count, or else you have to spend what feels like a painfully long second to reload, and in that time, you can get absolutely murked. The winger is also a much worse option for dealing with sentries. The smaller clip size gives engineers more time to heal their buildings between pistol volleys, making you an even weaker target against an engineer's nest. Equipping the shortstop helps circumvent this sentry situation, but the shortstop is a whole nother can of worms with its own downsides and intricacies that I am not going over in this video, sorry. The slower clip size also means that the winger is a much more demanding weapon than both the pistol and the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol. You have to make sure you make every shot with the winger count, like I said before. This is why if you want to start using the winger, I highly recommend training with the stock pistol for a match or two, just to get a feel for it. You really want to make sure your tracking and aim is good, because the winger is as punishing as it is rewarding. But once you get to that point where you consistently land multiple shots in a row, oh boy, you can pack an absolute punch at close range. I've pretty much come to the end of my talking points for this video, so let's do a little recap of all the Winger's pros and cons to tie this thing up. It's great for escapes and dodging, helps with positioning and opening new routes, on-demand mobility at no health cost, and it's a great finishing tool with the higher initial damage. However, the Winger has an overall lower damage output, is a weak weapon for taking down sentries, and has a small clip size that makes it a more demanding weapon. The Winger to me is such a balanced and fair weapon to play with and against, and it's really shocking to me that no one else ever uses or talks about it. If you're looking for something to spice up your next Scout play session, I highly recommend giving the Winger a shot. Who knows? You might just like it.